Welcome to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This video is a review of Mary's Gouache color set and is not sponsored. I got it at Jerry's Autorama for $9 since I'm a member. However, if you are a non-member, you can get it at Jerry's Autorama for $10.99, making this one of the cheapest gouache. The gouache comes with 18 colors, and I will be using Fabriano's watercolor cold pressed paper for my swatches and my painting. Starting off with swatches, I decided to swatch 4 colors: Vermilion, which is an orange, lemon yellow, burnt sienna, and black. My first thoughts when I started swatching the paints was how liquidy they were. I normally work with F.K.E gouache, which is very thick, so I was a bit surprised with how easily they glided on the paper. One thing I loved was how saturated the colors were. I did notice that the paint dried a lot quicker than my F.K.E gouache did, and that the dark colors dried a lot lighter than I would have liked. Another thing I noticed with the lemon yellow and lighter colors in general was that the light colors seemed to be a bit more liquidy than the dark colors. So the slightest amount of water could dilute the colors so much that it was like if you were working with watercolor. Swatching the burnt sienna and in my art piece, I noticed that the dark colors were pretty thick, and because of this I ended up adding a lot of water to combat the thickness. Later on, I did end up swatching the burnt sienna again with very little water to get a less watered out look and to test the smoothness of the color again. I also decided to swatch my black Mary's gouache and my black F.K.E gouache to see if there was any difference. I also wanted to show how small the paint tubes are and how I think that they're perfect for traveling. They're very portable. I want to say that the main thing that drew me to buy these gouache paints was how portable they were. Since the F.K.E gouache you can't really take around without it spilling, or you have to be very careful with how you carry it and how you place it down. I did end up swatching 2 of Mary's black, one adding a little bit of water and one adding more water, just to see the difference. I then swatched some of my F.K.E gouache, and after I was done swatching the F.K.E gouache, I noticed that the Mary's gouache was a little bit more saturated than my F.K.E gouache. I then swatched some burnt sienna in my Gouache using the same method as I did for the black to see if I could see any difference in colors from the Gouache to the Mary Gouache. I did notice that no matter how many times I swatched the burnt sienna in Gouache, it was always darker than the Mary Gouache, so I think the dark colors in Mary Gouache are just naturally lighter. I then blended vermilion with lemon yellow, and while the blending was very smooth here, I did notice something later in my art piece when it came to blending and layering. Up until this point of the video, I loved how smooth and saturated the paints were and found blending the paints to be easy. My only complaints were how liquidy and transparent the paints were. However, once I started my art piece, I noticed a few things that these paints could improve on. One thing I noticed very quickly was that I needed to hold off on the water because these paints were not as thick as my Gouache. Another thing I noticed was my brushstrokes were very visible when the piece dried, which has never happened to me with Gouache before or even designer gouache, so I believe it has to do with how thin and transparent the paints were. I also did use a small brush, so I think maybe if I would have used a bigger brush, the strokes would have been less visible, but still pretty visible. I was really enjoying how vibrant my colors were, but I did want to note that when I started using the burnt sienna was a lot thicker and smoother than my blue, so again I think that the darker colors are just a little bit thicker and smoother than my lighter colors. When I started to work on the petals of the sunflower, I mixed white with some yellow, hoping to get a little bit lighter yellow. However, I absolutely hated the texture because it was just so liquidy no matter how much paint I added to the mixture, and it was really see-through. I also found that my lighter colors wouldn't go over my darker colors, which the dark colors were dried, so I didn't understand why I couldn't layer over colors. This happened throughout the piece. Every time that I tried to put a light color over a dark color, it just didn't want to layer over, and it was also really hard to blend the dark colors to the light colors. However, I think that was due to the fact that the light colors dried really quick. I did also refrain from adding any more water to the yellow paint when I was painting the petals because it just kept getting more liquidy and I wanted to try and keep some sort of a thick consistency and hopefully keep the paints from becoming so transparent. Over and over again, I kept trying to layer over colors and was disappointed every time because the colors were just so transparent they would not layer over each other very well. I then mixed some burnt sienna with lemon yellow, and as you can see, it was really hard for me to blend the yellow with the burnt sienna. Every time that I would place down the burnt sienna and yellow mixture, it would take over my petal, and when I tried to go over that mixture with the lemon yellow, the yellow would not layer over the burnt sienna because it was just so transparent. I did notice that it was easier for dark colors to blend with dark colors. And it was also easier to layer dark colors over dark colors, which again I think is due to the dark color's thickness. Another thing I noticed was if I mixed a light color with white, it became a bit more thick so that I could layer a little bit over the burnt umber, as you can see. Overall, I'd rate these paints a 5 out of 10 because they are portable, smooth, and have lots of saturation. However, they are not good for layering, don't blend easily, and are a bit frustrating to work with thanks to how liquidy and transparent they are. I wouldn't recommend these paints for beginners or anyone who is going to be doing pieces that require a lot of layering and blending. However, if you want a more watercolorish effect to your gouache and you want a piece that is going to have one layer and be really simple, then these paints are okay and good for the price. I did do a comparison between the F.K.E gouache and the Mary's gouache. This one is the F.K.E gouache. It looks nicely blended easily. You can't see any brush strokes, and the paint is a lot thicker and easier to work with. Versus the Mary's gouache, it is very saturated, which I really like, but it's transparent, hard to blend, and the brush strokes can be seen throughout the piece. Hope this review was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe.